Alright guys, I got your boy Stingren here today, and today we're back with some reverse 1999 content for you guys here today. And today we're here to talk about Recoleta's best teams. If you guys don't know, Recoleta does release fairly soon. I for one am excited for her to release because she's a very powerful mineral DPS. Some might say she's even the best in the game. Without further ado, we're going to talk about some teams starting from budget all the way up to her premium option. So let's get right into it and let's talk about what these teams are for and how they work. Alright, so the first team here we have here today is going to be a just 5-star base team, pretty much the budget version of the team. This is just the team that you can kind of get your feet wet with Recoleta and just kind of use her with some units that can definitely help her, just to kind of further amplify up her damage a little bit. Recoleta is a very strong unit who doesn't quote unquote need some of the premium supports, but she can actually hit for some very high numbers without needing those units. So if you were to just start the game today and you pulled Recoleta, if you can invest in getting some of these characters as well, if you happen to pull them, or you can get them from free vouchers or whatever, then you're kind of cooking. But anyway, this is pretty much just the 5-star base team for those of you who either don't have her 6-star premiums, or of course want to figure out if you have any good 5-stars that can be ran with them as team placements. But as always, Bicorn is always the fact of one of the best units you can take for any reality DPS, because she has a very high reality shred at 3-star level, being a massive 25% and damage taken minus 25%, which is nice. Of course, even the 20% is still really good. If you were to upgrade this specifically from Bicorn, then you can upgrade this to Isolde, which actually gets you the same amount of 20%. You also get critical defense, which is actually more important. This critical defense can go up very high. But Isolde, if you were to upgrade, if you're just kind of going in a progressional term for the quote-unquote role, is Isolde would definitely be so much more better because she also provides a lot of off-turn damage, and she has the ability to give you rousing morale, and she also gives you a power burst effect, which of course you can stack the two of them together whenever you're ready to go for a DPS with Rico, and you can kind of just pop off with an extra 75% modifier buff on the skill, which is very powerful. But of course, if you don't have Isolde, Bicorn is again ultimately very fine. Again, the shred is fine. Bicorn does some pretty decent damage overall. She actually sees quite a bit of use in Reveries now because of the ceiling effect on certain stages, so it is something that you can run with your Rico. So I mean, above all else, you have something that can be ran with this unit, is what I'm saying. Anyway, next up we have Necrologist. Necrologist is here for the big damage dealt up effect, which gets 50%, which by the way, this actually stacks with Isolde. So if you have Isolde plus Necro, you can really amplify those two together because they're different types of damage dealt up bonuses effectively, because Isolde's is rousing morale and power burst essentially, which are two unique types of damage buffing. And damage dealt up is just a straight damage though. It's just its own individual type of buff. So you could kind of combine them together to make you know, a much stronger buff, which is really cool. You know, 75% plus an additional 50 is 125%, which is pretty strong. This also gives you a little bit of a heal if you are in prayer status. Prayer also is really good because it gives you a angel idol effect, which basically means if one of your characters were to die, you can then heal yourself a little bit to prevent yourself from death, and Yensei can reapply it to that character. However, Yensei can, I mean, not Yensei, she can then reapply it to the party member with Necro. Necro, however, can't reapply it to herself. So she can reapply prayer to, you know, whoever falls. If your Yensei falls, your Beacon falls, or even your own Recoleta falls, you can then ult again to get them right back into prayer. But if Necro falls out of her own prayer stat, then that's it. It just doesn't come back. It's GG's, you're cooked. Oh well. So there's that. And of course, Yensei is, again, really just there because she's the best 5-star healer we have. Balloon Party has some comparable results, but it really only depends on the type of content that you're doing. If you're in a situation where you're getting nuked fairly fast and you're not able to sustain yourself with Yensei, Bicorn does help. Yensei does provide a little bit more support to the team because she can reduce damage dealt up to the targeted enemy, which of course is relevant for a boss that you're trying to kill if you just want to get some extra damage mod in there. Of course, stacking it just doesn't stack on top of Bicorn's debuff, so this doesn't really play too much, but it's a consistent 20% that you don't have to rely on Bicorn's 2-star to get, which is still fine. Yensei does also provide a shield with her ultimate, which can actually get you a little bit of, a little bit of the way there, also giving you immunity just in case if you can time roll on dangerous turns where you can get potentially, CC'd or something, then that could be definitely a helpful thing there. But that is generally just the best of the 5-star options. There were some other options I was thinking about, like Barb. Barb doesn't really help Rico as much as I thought. The big reason is because Rico, she doesn't really care about the tiering of her cards. The one big benefit that all DPSs always love is obviously the extra modifier, but with a certain tiering of cards, for example, you get additional effects, right? As you can see here, stage 2, you get access to a dispel, right? Here, you get access to a debuff. The problem with this effect is that Rico gets access to all of her stuff on her 1-star card and it doesn't upgrade. So it's not like it gets one of the Passion Drain, then 2, then 3. It's just a consistent 2 stacks of Passion Drain off her main attack card, and then her other card, which gives her the buff that increases the ultimate might of her main skill. It's the same amount every single time regardless of the star level. So Barb doesn't really help here outside of just being another sustain option you could use. But other than Barb, that was kind of like the only other 5-star I was considering for the team. But this is just what I have here. Just Bicorn, Necrologist, Yensei. Very tried and true combo for 5 stars. It's a pretty good pairing of units, of course. So there's that. But anyway, that is going to be our first team, kind of our budget 5-star team. Let's go to the next one. Alright, so the second team here is going to be kind of just a DPS team that you can run without hyper investing into Euphorias. To be completely honest, Recoleta's best team does include pretty much a full Euphoria team, pretty much, but you can get away with running one, which the one I will recommend is actually Pickles because of what he provides. But let's go ahead and talk about the partners and what you would get from them. So of course, first up is going to be Pickles. Pickles is going to be here because he is going to be our main buffer for Rico. Rico being a mineral character, so he's able to give 2 buffs, and you can just continuously wrap around those 2 buffs with his Euphoria effect, which gives you a collection of buffs, which gives you penetration rate 20%, which is very good for ult, crit rate plus 15%, critical damage plus 30%, and leech rate plus 50%, which is really strong, again, because you essentially have a way to, of course, heal your Recoleta after you do a big ult. So Pickles is really good for that regard. That's really just what you'd want her for. It's just for the ultimate, right? The ultimate is very, very strong. It's gonna be one of your it's essentially Recoleta's main trump card is that strong ultimate. So there is that. Another thing I wanted to talk about specifically with Pickles is while he doesn't provide her with extra damage bonus, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't run her with Pickles. I mean, it's pretty much one of her best supportive options because of her being a mineral character. I've seen some people say that you shouldn't run Pickles with Rico because of him not providing extra damage boost, which is just simply not true. Run her with Pickles, okay? Run Rico with Pickles. It is a fantastic combination. Don't nobody tell you otherwise. Flutterpage is another character that I can safely recommend. Flutterpage is really good because AP economy is also really good. This also ties in very well with Rico's ult. Recoleta has a lot of moxie that she can actually give. And of course, if you want the maximum modifier for her moxie, then you're gonna have to invest in more turns. And of course, Flutterpage being a AP generational demon, as I like to call her, she can actually help you with that goal quite consistently while also providing you with extra damage as well because of her special effects. Of course, her big effect being a Doom Mother Earth, which can give you a huge amount of damage dealt for your Rico, which is ultimately just fine. Now, the big thing here is this continuous action effect, which gives you AP +1 for a round or +2 rounds, or a total of 2 rounds if you ever at P1. This is really good because this is a really good way to quickly build Moxie on Rico, and it's also a really good way to build up stacks of her unique buff. Recoleta has 2 unique buffs depending on the type of enemies that's on the field. If it is just one enemy, right, then you get Momo Mythic Narrative. If you get more than one enemy, you get Ensemble Narrative. And this buff is very, very, very important to put on your Recoleta, because this gives you a additional reality damage buff based on a type of enemy. If you do Momo Mythic, which is the single target one, you get 50% modifier for each stack that this has. And then if you have the assemble narrative, which is the AoE version, then you get 25% reality damage for a stack of 20 each. So that means you can get 20 stacks of Momo Mythic, 20 stacks of assemble, and of course that is going to be a huge modifier buff to your skills respectfully, because this essentially can make Rico hits for some disastrous numbers, especially since she can also further increase this based on the amount of Moxie that she then consumes, which is essentially another additional 30% of ultimate might gain bonus alongside the other effects of assemble and Momo Mythic, whichever one is your preferred target depending on the type of content that you're doing. So of course, Flutter Page, being a great AP unit, can help you bridge your way into going to give her as many turns as you can possibly can to build up that Moxie, and of course still build up her stacks as quickly as you can. You can also use this as an opportunity to kind of do the other attack that inflicts passion drain too, because again that gives you another reason to more build Moxie, because whenever the target gets attacked with passion drain, then they gain a Moxie point. So that's fine, you know what I mean? So if you hit the target with passion drain, then you get yourself, a free Moxie. I mean, you can't really complain about that. That's not bad. And of course she wants that, because again, she wants to quickly go into her Moxie as quickly as she possibly can. So I mean, it is what it is. That's something that you can do, but of course, I think I would prefer to just use it just to build up stacks, because you're going to get to your max stack of Moxie pretty quickly anyway. Next up is Kakania. We just took Kakania just for sustain. I was tied between her or Fatutu. I like either option, honestly. I think her or Fatutu can work. Of course, Fatutu wants extra damaging teammates, which technically Pickles and Flutter technically do get benefits from Fatutu's buff, but if I was kind of centering the team around Recoleta herself, could kind of just an all-around safe net option. But of course, if you wanted a good healer as well, while also providing extra utility for Flutter Page and Pickles, then you can definitely go for Tutu, and then you can still get your benefit that way as being the sustain of your team and the healer of the team, which both of these options are good. Both of them work extremely well. So whichever option you choose to go with, it's ultimately up to you on what you have. But yeah, if not, then you could just try to run another healer. I wouldn't recommend Vila this time around, because Pickles kind of handles all of those standard buffs that Vila would give outside of the modifier buff. What you could give instead is maybe let me see, what other healer we could go. There's one I want to say, but I can't. I mean, of course, there's always the safe 2 fairy option. You can, yeah, just go 2 fairy. I think 2 fairy is the safer option too, because that's also a form of crit resist and everything. So that's a safer option. But the other option that I want to name is in a different team. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's gonna be the second team. That's just what the team is. What it's gonna be meant to do is, Flutter Page is going to be kind of the anchor to allow your Recoleta to attack a little bit more aggressively. Of course, 5 actions per turn can really make a big difference, especially if your other 2 sustains don't really need to do much. Pickles doesn't really need to do much, because he's going to be providing you buffs just straight up every single turn, and Kakania only really needs to heal if she takes a big hit. So yeah, pretty cool. So let's go on to the final team, which is of course her best team. Alright, so this is going to be the final team here, and this is going to be what is essentially her best team option. Now, this team is going to be absolute gas if you can get everyone's Euphoria. If you're limited on Euphoria materials and you need to maybe wait until events, or you can't progress too much more into the referees, you can get most of the materials, then of course fall back on the second team, kind of fix it as the way as you need to see fit. But this team is absolute gas. So what this team is going to be providing you is going to be a huge 72% modifier of ultimate might because of Millennia's effect. With her new Euphoria, Millennia also it becomes access to Passion Drain, which is really good. But Millennia can now put up her effect of Fixed Plan to everyone. So this means you can give everyone that big massive 72% ultimate might bonus, and that of course is going to be tasty for your Recoleta because of how strong her ult might can already get. So this is a big buff. Of course, we talked about Pickles earlier with of course him providing you the 4 buffs that you can rotate on a consistent level because she is a mineral character. But Melania is of course going to be giving you your big ultimate might buff, and she's also going to be another good source of Moxie disruption, which of course does come up in certain stages. More so, I've seen this in the earlier stages of referees, not so much the later ones, but I've definitely seen more of from base to like 300. I've definitely gotten use of Melania for some reason of Moxie disruption where it absolutely mattered, and that's actually really cool. So I do recommend actually running Melania for that Moxie disruption effect. She can also super battery herself because of Passion Drain. If you really were just to go to assemble way with Rico, you can Passion Drain with Melania because she actually has access to it. It's only a 1 stack, but that's still 1 Moxie that you can give to Melania with cards that can already buff up her Moxie. For example, when she's her Thief Master effect, and at P2 she gets 2 stacks of this, by the way, then you get Moxie +1. So it's a very quick way. Also, her underskill can steal Moxie from a target if you use it at 2 stars or above. So you can really hyper battery to get those 3 quick ults with Melania, so that way you get your 72% before you ideally want to nuke with Rico. Really just depends. Medicine Pocket is also really cool for this team because Medicine Pocket now has access to a really strong critical shred. She has access to critical defense minus 40% and critical resist rate, I believe, of 25%, or these are 35 or 25. I can't forget the numbers, but forgive me. But that's really cool. She also now becomes a bit of a sustain unit. Well, she was always sustained, but she has access to shields, which is actually pretty nice. She does reduce your HP, but it's not by much. And of course, she does have fallback methods. If you fall below 50% of your HP, she then begins to heal, which is again effectively very fine. That's really just the core thing about her, is that she just becomes a really good crit unit for this type of team. You can actually use whoever you want for Medicine Pocket spot. I would say Medicine Pocket spot is actually pretty free and pretty flexible. If you wanted other options, Lepera would be a great option because Lepera gives you 25% ultimate might, which stacks on top of Melania's effect too. So that's actually really good if you had Lepera. I would say Merc, but maybe not really, because none of what she does actually provides the same bonuses, because you're going to be getting a crit from Pickles. The only thing is that you get more crit rate, which is better, but I do think running Lote would be 100% better. But I think Lote would be the best option. You can also go the 2 fairy route as well with this one too. I don't think you need Vila so much with Rico, because again, you're getting most of the same benefits from Pickles, and you don't really need Incantation Might that much with Rico. Rico specializes in Ultimate Might, so you want to kind of give her as much as you can around Ultimate Might. So if you didn't have Medicine Pocket, Lepera is still a fine option because she can also heal. She's not going to be as strong as a healer as Medicine Pocket. Medicine Pocket is going to be a pretty decent healer post Euphoria, but she still can heal. So that's the only other option I could recommend, is that you go Lepera for your other healing method and your other source of crit rate, because remember, Lepera's crit rate and crit damage buffs are fairly unique, which means they stack on top of whatever Pickles would then provide to the team, which is of course really nice. She has the 40% crit rate, which is from her array field, which is again automatically applicable. It's not going to be replaced or overstacked by anything. And of course that stacks on top of Pickles, already giving you another 15, which is again really nice. And then you have the right on target effect, which gives you crit damage bonus as however high, well, I think it's based on however high her crit damage is by a certain percentage. It's like 10% of her crit damage, which is again extra crit damage, can't complain. With Pickles giving you some more crit damage, it's still an extra damage modifier, so that is something that you can do. But that is going to be it, guys. Those are just the main 3 teams I would actually say that actually does work out fairly well with Recoleta. If you have any further questions about Rico, let me know in the comment section below. But it's going to be the main 3 teams. If you have any other team ideas, leave them in the comment section below. Explain how that works so other viewers can also generate from your teams. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.